Hey everybody, this is the video you have been waiting for your lifetime. This is chapter 10 for the intro algebra, and we're going to be talking about operations. We're going to be talking about polynomials and their operations. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. But first we're going to talk about, get some pre-stuff out of the way. And we're going to talk about, let's see, we're going to give you some rules of exponents. Okay, we're going to talk about those. First, let's talk about what is an exponent. So we have some term raised to a power. This particular power, that will be known as your exponent. The term that's being raised to the power is known as the base. The exponent tells you how many times to multiply the base. How many times to multiply the base. So, if I had 3 to the 4th power, the 4 tells us to multiply the 3 okay, we're going to add it 4 times. That's what the exponent tells you to do. Now, let's look at some rules about exponents. The first rule we're going to talk about is the zero rule. Okay? A term raised to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is, please don't make this mistake, it is 1. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So if I had 1 million to the 0 power, 1. Always 1. Then we have the 1 rule. A to the 1st power. Anything to the 1st power is just whatever the base is. 6 to the 1, that's just 6. B to the 1, that's just B. Anything to the 1st power is the number itself. Alright, then we have what is called the product rule. That's when we multiply a to the n. When we multiply exponents. Okay? Same base, different exponents. The rule says we add. So we add exponents when we multiply. So x to the 5th times x to the 4th would just be x to the 5 plus 4, which is x to the 9. Okay? So whenever we multiply, we add exponents. Then we have what is known as the quotient rule. The quotient rule, that's division, product rule, multiplication. Quotient rule, we divide it. says we're going to subtract the exponents. So write that down. Subtract exponents. So if I have x to the fifth divided by x to the third, x to the 5 minus 3, x squared, x to the 2. Then we have the power rule. Okay? That's when you raise a term to a power. In this case, we multiply exponents. Okay? So this would be a to the m times n. We multiply exponents. So this will give us, so if I have x to the fifth raised to the third power, that's x to the fifth times 3, x to the 15. Okay? All right, any questions? Okay, let's see. All right, now, next rule is called the negative exponent rule. Okay. And that rule simply says any term raised to a negative power is just the reciprocal of that term to the positive power. Okay? So if I have 3 to the negative 4, that's just 1 over 3 to the positive 4. Okay, so now, make sure you have in your notes your rules about your exponents, the 0 rule, 1 rule, product rule, quotient rule, power rule, and the negative exponent rule. Make sure you have written those down in your notes. Very, very important. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is scientific notation. All right. So I'm about to erase this, so I hope you already have these rules in your notation. So I'm going to wipe them away. Go play the video back if you did not copy them down. Make sure you have all of these rules. Okay. Scientific notation. Scientific notation. Scientific notation is writing a number as a power of 10. Now that particular number that we're talking about, that number that we're talking about must be greater than or equal to 1 or less than 10. In other words, we cannot have a number. We must have at least one non-zero digit in front of the decimal point. And I'm going to show you. Sometimes we use scientific notation to talk about very large numbers or very small numbers. So, large number being, let's see, some number, okay. The lottery that we might have had, okay? Scientific notation says we have to take this decimal point and move it all the way to right here. So we only have one number in front of the decimal point, 7.87 times 10 to some power. Now how many numbers did we pass to get to this number? This is one number right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we passed 7 numbers. 7 numbers. So that exponent is 7. When we move to the left, exponent is positive. All right? So suppose I had a very small number. Very small number, which means we have something like this. Probably the size of your some microscope. Some let's see, not the size of, you need a microscope to look at it, because it is so small. It's a germ, it's whatever it is, it's real small. So we need a non-zero number. Remember, one non-zero digit in front of the decimal point. So we have to move this decimal point all the way to between the 3 and the 2. So now this becomes this times 10 to the what? 1, 2. We can say what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is -5. When we move to the right, the exponent is negative. Whenever we're changing a large number to scientific notation, we move the decimal point to the left, and our exponent is positive. The power of 10 is positive. When we have a very small number, changing it to scientific notation, we move the decimal to the right, and our exponent is negative. Okay? So, that's scientific notation. Now, let's get into what we're going to talk about, polynomials and their operations. Now, we've been doing some of this already in chapter 7. Okay, we have been combining like terms. Basically, that's what addition and subtraction is. Addition and subtraction is just the combining of like terms. The combining of like terms. But now, what I'm going to do is give you different types of polynomials so we can see if we actually recognize them. So let's first talk about a monomial. Monomials. One term. One term. One. Then we have the binomial. Binomial is 2 terms. 6x minus 9. 2. 1, 2. Then we also have the trinomial. Trinomial is 3 terms. Okay? 3 terms. And what are we going to be doing with these types, these polynomials? Okay, first of all, just being able to recognize what kind you have, whether you have a monomial, whether you have a trinomial or a binomial. Okay? So make sure, 3 terms. So that would be something like x squared plus 6x minus 9. 1, 2, 3. 3 terms. All right. Now, we have this. Let's look at this trinomial right here. X squared plus 6x minus 9. And one of the questions in the last chapter we had was to identify the terms. And that's what I'm going to ask you to do. Identify the terms. Then I'm going to ask you to tell me the coefficient of each term. So let's talk about the terms. All right, the first term is your x squared. Then you have the 6x. And then you have a minus 9. So those are your terms. Coefficient. What is the numerical number in front of the variable? What is the numerical representation? So the coefficient of this term would be 1. When there's no number in front of the variable, understood to be 1. Well, 6x would be 6. And for this one, 9. Now I'm going to ask you the degree. The degree. The degree has to do with the exponent. What is the exponent on each term? The exponent is, this one is 2. When you don't see it, it's 1. When there's no variable at all, it is 0. Okay? And then the degree of the polynomial, is the highest degree. And what is that? 2. So the degree of the polynomial is 2. So we have identified the terms. We have identified the coefficients and the degree of each term and the degree of the polynomial. So now, suppose we are going to now collect like terms. Collect like terms. Just like in chapter 7, collect like terms. If you notice, all these terms have x, some have exponents. You notice all these have an exponent. But in order for them to be alike, they have to have the same exponent. So we have 4x cubed plus 2x cubed. Then we have minus 4x squared plus x squared. And then we have our last term, which is plus 5x. Now if you notice, at the same time I put my like terms together, I put them in order according to exponent. The terms with the highest exponent first, then the next highest, then the next highest. So that's writing in descending order. All right, in descending order. So let's combine this. So this becomes what? 6x cubed minus 3x squared plus 5x. And we can't go any further with that because the terms are not alike. The terms are not alike. Okay, so we have done that. Collecting like terms. Now we get into the nitty-gritty, the real deal. Okay, let's talk about collecting like terms. Basically, it's just like adding and subtracting polynomials. That's what it is. So adding and subtracting polynomials. So let's look at an example where we are adding polynomials. You might say something like this that says, it might say add. And remember, we are going to follow our rules of like signs and unlike signs. Like signs, add and keep the sign. Unlike signs, subtract and keep the sign of the higher number. All right? But the only thing we're going to be combining are our like terms. If the terms are not alike, they cannot be combined. Now what do you notice? This is a plus sign, so everything over here is going to stay the same. So we have a minus 3x cubed, and we have a cube here. So plus 4x cubed. Over here we have an x squared, and we don't have one here. So we're going to bring down our 3x squared. Over here we have an x, and none over here. But then we have 4 plus 2. Now, let's combine our like terms. Negative 4 and 3, we subtract. That's 1, so that's just x cubed. No x squared term, so that's 3x squared, we bring it down. No x term, we bring it down. 4 and 2, 6. Don't hurt yourself, please. Do not hurt yourself. Now, then we have subtraction. All right, we have subtraction. Suppose it tells you to subtract. Now, remember our rule: when a minus sign is in front of the parentheses, what happens? What happens when the minus sign is in front of the parentheses? Say something. You know what to do. Remember, each one of these has to be multiplied by that minus sign. So what's going to happen? The sign is going to change. The sign is going to change. All right, so now let's see what's going to happen. We're going to change the sign and collect our like terms together. So we got an x to the 5th here, x to the 5th here. So this becomes 9x to the 5th, what? Minus 2x to the 5th. Okay, now we have, you notice, we have an x to the 4th here, but we don't have one here. But we also have this minus sign. Minus times positive is minus x to the 4th. Then we have our x to the 3rd. We got x to the third over here. Minus and a minus is plus x to the third. Okay, we got a squared here. Minus 2x squared. And a squared here. Minus or minus is plus. All right, and what's left? The plus 4. Okay. Now, let's combine our like terms. So we can combine this, this, this. So when we combine this, we get what? 9 minus 2 is 7. X to the 5th. Bring down your minus x to the 4th. Then we combine this. 1 plus 4 is 5. Then we have minus 2 plus 3. That's just 1. Then plus 4. So now, that's it. That's all for adding and subtracting polynomials. And this is the end of part 1 of the video. So you may stop here and save the other part of the video for another day. All right? Thank you.